I'm Esme Wright, and I never thought I'd be the kind of person to bring a tech company to its knees, not out of spite, but because they didn't know who they were messing with. Picture this. It's a rainy Friday afternoon in Seattle, the kind where the clouds hang low over Puget Sound, and I'm sitting at my desk at Nexlify Solutions, a mid-sized tech firm that builds HR software for companies too cheap to care about their people. I'm 32, a self-taught coder from Tacoma, where my dad worked the docks and my mom balanced budgets for a small bakery. I clawed my way into tech with no fancy degree, just grit and late nights teaching myself Python while the rest of the world slept. For 18 months, I poured my soul into Nexlify's Payroll system, a beast I built from scratch to process thousands of paychecks without a hiccup. I missed my niece's birthday, skipped Thanksgivings, and typed through wrist pain because I believed my work mattered. But that day, everything changed. They called me into conference room C, the one with a flickering LED that buzzed like a hornet trapped in a jar. My shoulders stiffened as I walked in, sensing the ambush before I saw it. There was Lauren from HR, her smile dripping with pity, and Rick Coleman, the new CFO, strutting in like he owned the skyline. Rick was all New York polish in a Seattle tech world, $200 haircuts, tailored suits, and a grin that screamed, "I read half of Good to Great, and now I'm a visionary." He shook my hand, his palm dry as a spreadsheet, and launched into his spiel. "We're streamlining operations, Esme. Nothing personal, just numbers." Streamlining. Like firing me was some sexy new app feature. I'd built a payroll system so tight it could balance a budget on a tightrope, but to Rick, I was just a line item to cut. Lauren slid a severance package across the table, 3 weeks pay, no benefits, like I was being tipped for bad service. The cardboard box they handed me had a mustard stain from the last layoff, reeking of cheap coffee and corporate regret. I gripped it, my knuckles white, but I didn't cry or yell. I'd spent years swallowing slights, managers who called me support staff, promotions that went to guys who couldn't spell encryption. This wasn't new. It was just louder as I packed my desk, my coffee mug, a half-dead succulent, a sticky note that read, "Don't let the bastards grind you down." Sam, my old mentor from IT, hovered nearby. He looked like a kid caught stealing cookies, his eyes darting to his watch like it held an escape plan. I gave him a lifeline. "Sam, make sure someone updates the payroll system before the 28th, I said, my voice steady. He blinked, confused. "The what?" I didn't repeat myself. I'd built that system with a monthly key tied to my personal Gmail, a workaround because Nexlify wouldn't spring for a cloud license. They didn't know, and I wasn't about to beg them to care. I walked out, the Seattle rain cool on my face, feeling not defeat, but something else right. Resolve. They'd learn soon enough. I'd always been the kind of person who tied up loose ends, even when the world didn't deserve it. Back in Tacoma, I'd stay late at the community college lab, debugging code while my classmates partied, because I knew one perfect line could change everything. At Nexlify, that instinct drove me to build the payroll system, my payroll demon. I called it, half joking because it was a beast only I could tame. It processed 5,000 paychecks monthly, smooth as a Seattle sunrise, but it had a quirk, a monthly authentication key, generated off-grid and sent to my personal Gmail.
Why?
Because Nexlify's finance team, led by Rick's predecessors, scoffed at my request for a secure cloud license. Too expensive, they'd said, like my overtime wasn't. So I improvised, coding a tokenized wall so strong it'd take a supercomputer a month to crack. It wasn't revenge, it was necessity. But when they fired me, that necessity became my leverage. I didn't tell them about the key as I left. Not because I wanted chaos, but because I was done volunteering fixes for people who saw me as disposable. I'd spent 18 months eating lunch at my desk, skipping my mom's 60th birthday to meet deadlines, only to be handed a mustard-stained box. The anger I felt wasn't loud. It was a quiet burn, like the ache in my wrists after coding all night. I warned Sam about the 28th, but his blank stare told me he didn't get it. That was fine. I'd given enough. The next morning, I went back to clear out my desk, a habit from my Tacoma days. Never leave a job half done. The security guard barely looked up, buzzing me in like I was a ghost haunting my own cubicle. A few accounting folks mumbled awkward goodbyes. One offered me a half-eaten scone, like it could soften the blow. I tossed it in the trash 5 steps later. Sam was there, fiddling with cables under my old desk, avoiding eye contact. I decided to nudge him again. Sam, the payroll demon needs its key by the 28th, or the authentication expires. I slipped my thumb drive into my bag, keeping my tone casual. He nodded, muttering, "Right, got it," but I knew he didn't. His mental to-do list was already overflowing with VPN patches and Wi-Fi fixes. My words went straight to his junk drawer, next to reset printer and call mom. As I left, I passed the glass meeting room where Rick was pitching some buzzword-heavy nonsense to the board, all chest puffs and fake laughs. He didn't know the system he was bragging about was mine, or that it was about to bite back. I didn't say a word about the key. Why would I? They hadn't asked. And deep down, beneath the hurt and the pride, I knew. The clock was ticking, and I held the only watch. Leaving Nexlify didn't break me. It set me free. For the first time in years, I wasn't chained to a keyboard, racing against deadlines while Rick and his suits took credit for my work. Growing up in Tacoma, I'd learned to keep my head down, to prove myself through results, not noise. But that Friday night, as I sat in my Capitol Hill apartment with a glass of rose and a Columbo rerun flickering on the TV, I felt something new. Power. Not the loud, chest-thumping kind Rick loved, but the quiet kind that comes from knowing you're untouchable. The Payroll demon's key was mine, and Nexlify was about to learn what happens when you fire the person holding the lock, that I didn't rage or plot revenge. I just lived. Saturday morning, I walked to a cafe on Pike Street, the kind with mismatched mugs and baristas who know your order. I sipped a lavender latte, watching rain streak the windows, and let my phone buzz unanswered. An email from the payroll system sat in my Gmail, its subject line clinical. Authentication required. Monthly payroll token. I swiped it away, not out of spite, but because I was done carrying Nexlify's weight. For 18 months, I'd been their invisible backbone, fixing bugs during family dinners, answering emails at midnight. Now, they could figure it out. BY Sunday, I was at Lake Washington, sprawled on a blanket with a thriller novel and a playlist of lo-fi beats. My phone vibrated again, another system ping, then a text from Lauren in HR, all smiley emojis and "hope you're doing okay." I pictured her in her cubicle, surrounded by company-branded mugs, thinking a friendly tone could erase the cardboard box they'd handed me. I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, she was just a cog like I'd been, but because I was reclaiming my time. Every ignored message felt like a stitch in a wound I'd carried too long, the kind you get when you're a woman in tech. Always proving you belonged. My calm wasn't cold. It was healing. I thought about my mom, who'd balanced books for a bakery while raising me, never complaining about the long hours. I'd inherited her grit, but also her scars, the ones you get from being reliable while others climb over you. Nexlify thought I'd fade, maybe post a sad LinkedIn update or beg for freelance gigs. Instead, I went to yoga, laughed with friends over tacos, and let the company's clock tick down. The hurt was still there, buried under years of missed moments and dismissive emails, but I wasn't going to let it define me. I was waiting, not for their apology, but for the moment they'd realize they needed me more than I'd ever needed them. BY Thursday morning, Nexlify was unraveling, and I wasn't even there to see it. I'd built their payroll system to be a silent workhorse, but without my key, it was a locked vault, and the company was about to learn how heavy a vault can be. I was at a Capitol Hill bakery, biting into a cinnamon roll, when the first whispers of chaos reached me, not through emails, but through a friend who still worked there. "People are freaking out," she texted. "No pay stubs yet." I smiled, not because I wanted them to suffer, but because the truth was finally catching up to Rick's arrogance. Nexlify, the day started like any other. Slack pings, burnt coffee, someone's breakfast burrito stinking up the break room. But around mid-morning, a junior marketer, Tara, asked in a team huddle, "Hey, when do pay stubs drop?" Her voice was light, like she expected an easy answer. Silence fell. Payroll always hit the portal by noon on the 27th, deposits landing the next day, reliable as Seattle's rain. When Bryce, a junior accountant with too much hair gel, checked the dashboard and saw a red error blinking, pending token not received, he shrugged it off as a glitch. Probably nothing, he muttered, opening an IT ticket before scrolling Reddit. But it wasn't nothing. The system I'd built was waiting for my Gmail key, a monthly handshake I'd coded to keep payments secure. Without it, the demon went silent. By lunchtime, employees were checking their bank apps, muttering about pending statuses. A warehouse worker posted a TikTok, slurping instant noodles in the break room with the caption, #NexlifyNoPay, when your tech job ghosts your paycheck. It racked up thousands of views by afternoon. Slack channels, usually full of memes, turned into a war zone of panic. My rent's due. Anyone else's deposit missing? HR posted a vague, "We're investigating" message, which landed like a wet paper towel. I wasn't gloating. I was detached. Growing up, I'd watched my dad come home from the docks, exhausted but proud, only to be laid off when the company streamlined. I'd promised myself I'd never beg for my worth, and yet Nexlify had made me feel small, like my 18 months of overtime were just background noise. Now, as I sipped coffee by a window, watching Cedarlights hustle under umbrellas, I felt the weight of that promise. The company's chaos wasn't my fault. It was their choice to fire me without asking what I did. My phone buzzed again, another system ping, ignored. I pictured Rick in his glass office, still thinking he could PowerPoint his way out of this. He didn't know the demon was mine, built with code I'd written on sleepless nights, fueled by coffee and a need to prove I wasn't just support staff. By evening, the hashtag #NexlifyNoPay was trending regionally. Employees were livid, some calling their banks, others venting on Discord. Bryce checked the admin panel one last time, saw the same red error, and left for the night, muttering, "It'll fix itself." It wouldn't. The clock was ticking toward the 28th, and I was the only one with the key. For the first time in years, I wasn't running to fix someone else's mess. I was letting them feel the weight of their own. Friday morning hit Nexlify like a storm, and I was miles away, savoring the calm. I was at a yoga class in Fremont, stretching into downward dog while my phone sat silent in my bag. Back at the office, the payroll demon was holding 5,000 paychecks hostage, and the company was finally realizing they'd fired the only person who could set it free. My system wasn't broken. It was waiting, locked behind a key only I could provide. And I wasn't answering. Nexlify. Chaos erupted before the coffee machines warmed up. By early morning, phones were ringing off the hook. Angry voicemails from sales reps whose car payments bounced, single parents demanding answers, warehouse workers threatening to walk out. The receptionist, overwhelmed, hid in the bathroom after a particularly brutal call. Slack exploded with messages. "No deposit yet. What's going on?" "This is BS. My mortgage is due." "HRs, please remain patient. Post only fan the flames." Rick, the CFO with his shark grin and $200 haircuts, strutted into the IT war room like he could charm the system into submission. "Override the queue," he barked, as if clicking buttons could undo his mistake. Sam, the IT manager, handed him a keyboard, his face pale. Rick clicked through the admin panel, hit override authentication, and got slapped with a prompt. Key expired. Contact authorized endpoint. Sam, sweating through his hoodie, admitted the truth. "The key goes to Esme's personal Gmail. She set it up that way when we couldn't get cloud licensing." Rick's jaw twitched, his confidence cracking like cheap glass. "You're telling me the one person who can fix this is the woman we fired?" Sam didn't answer. The silence did. I'd built the system with a decaying cipher, a fail-safe to prevent tampering. Brute forcing it would corrupt the payment queue. Spoofing it would wipe the schedule. It was my insurance, coded on nights when I'd traded sleep for security, knowing Nexlify would never value it until it was gone, that I wasn't heartless. Growing up in Tacoma, I'd seen my mom balance books for a bakery, always putting others first. I'd done the same, fixing bugs during family dinners, answering emails at dawn. But Nexlify had treated me like a vending machine. Insert tasks, expect results, no thanks required. Now, as I sipped an iced latte by Lake Union, my phone buzzed with another system ping. Unlock key request. Payroll batch. I deleted it, not out of cruelty, but clarity. I wasn't their servant anymore. Rick tried to rally the team, barking orders while pacing like a caged animal. Sam scoured logs, muttering about protocol mismatches, but the truth was staring them down. They needed me, and I wasn't coming cheap. BY noon, rumors swirled, cyberattack, accounting glitch, even Mercury retrograde. Employees crowded the front desk, waving banking apps like protest signs. I wasn't there to see it, but I could feel it, the same way I'd felt every ignored email, every support staff label. My system was perfect, not broken, just locked. And as I walked along the Seattle waterfront, the salt air cool on my face, I knew they'd come crawling soon. I wasn't gloating. I was waiting. While Nexlify drowned in its own chaos, I was finding my rhythm. Monday morning, I was at a rooftop cafe in Belltown, the Seattle skyline stretching out like a promise I was finally ready to claim. My phone buzzed with emails from Nexlify, first Lauren, the HR rep, with her "hope you're well" nonsense, then a junior accountant, then even Sam, my old mentor, with a subject line that read, "Quick question." I didn't open them. I'd spent years answering their calls, fixing their messes, while they handed promotions to guys who couldn't code a hello world. Now I was done. I sipped my coffee, the Puget Sound glinting below, and let them squirm. Growing up in Tacoma, I'd learned to keep my pain quiet. My dad lost his dock job to efficiency cuts, and I'd watched him rebuild without complaint. I'd done the same at Nexlify, coding through exhaustion, smiling through slights, because I thought hard work would earn respect. It didn't. Being fired wasn't just a betrayal, it was a wake-up call. I wasn't going to beg for their attention or hand them the key out of guilt. They'd made their choice, and I was making mine. The emails kept coming. Lauren's second message was a digital whimper. Urgent, tiny favor. She mentioned escalating confusion and legal exposure, as if I owed them a lifeline. I read it in bed, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like lavender and freedom, and swiped it away. Then came Rick's email, all corporate jargon and fake sincerity. "Miss Wright, we value your expertise and request your cooperation to resolve a payroll issue." I laughed, a quiet huff, and blocked his address. It wasn't petty, it was principle. They'd handed me a cardboard box like I was trash. Now they wanted my help for free. I wasn't hiding. I went to yoga, met friends for tacos, walked along Alki Beach with the Olympic Mountains in the distance. Every step felt like shedding a layer of the old Esme, the one who'd stayed late to fix bugs while Rick pitched future-proof nonsense to the board. My phone buzzed again, another system ping, then a LinkedIn message from a coworker I barely knew. I updated my status. Taking a break. Direct inquiries to your own decisions. The hurt was still there, a dull ache from years of being invisible, but it was fading. I wasn't waiting for revenge. I was waiting for them to see me, really see me for the first time. BY afternoon, my cousin Nate, who runs a kayak rental shop in West Seattle, texted me. Nexlify called. "They're freaking out." "You good?" I was better than good. I was free, sipping a margarita by the water, the payroll demon's key safe in my pocket. They could beg, but I wasn't ready to listen. Not YET BY Monday, Nexlify was a house on fire, and I was the only one with a hose. I wasn't gloating. I was at a Seattle farmer's market, picking out peaches, when my lawyer, Evelyn, called. A family friend from Tacoma. Evelyn had a voice like steel wrapped in velvet, the kind that could make a boardroom sweat. "They're desperate," she said, amusement creeping into her tone. "Lawsuits are piling up, and hashtag NexlifyNoPay is trending. They want to talk." I smiled, not because I wanted them to suffer, but because the truth was finally louder than Rick's buzzwords. The crisis had exploded. Subpoenas landed at HR by morning. One from California, two from Texas, a nasty one from Oregon where a team lead had called a labor attorney and a local news station. Employees weren't just mad, they were organized. Reddit threads buzzed with stories of Nexlify's incompetence, and Glassdoor reviews roasted Rick. Couldn't manage a lemonade stand, let alone payroll. The board called an emergency Zoom, their faces like a gallery of heartburn. She was junior staff, one VP whined. Sam, exhausted, set them straight. Esme built the system, end-to-end, encrypted, fail-safe. She was Payroll. The head of legal, Dawn, looked like she hadn't slept since grunge was cool. Why wasn't she mission critical, she demanded. Rick, sweating through his suit, had no answer. I'd warned them about the 28s, but they'd ignored me. Just like they'd ignored my requests for resources, my late-night emails, my entire existence. Evelyn took their call during her lunch break, letting their legal rep ramble about operational continuity. She didn't interrupt, just let the silence hang like a guillotine. Then she laid out my terms. A 6-month consulting contract, $150,000 upfront, remote work, no meetings, and a public apology from Rick, posted on the company intranet for a week. My client is willing to listen, she said, but only on her terms. The PDF hit their inbox like a brick. Rick exploded. This is extortion. Sam, staring at his screen, muttered, No, it's justice. The board, facing lawsuits and a PR nightmare, approved it by evening. The apology was a masterpiece. To all Nexlify employees, we take full responsibility for the payroll disruption. Esme Wright's systems were integral, and her departure was mishandled. We apologize for the hardship caused. Rick signed it, his ego bruised black. By morning, it was pinned to the internet. Slack erupted, screenshots hit Twitter, someone photoshopped Rick into a dunce cap next to a "Welcome Back, Esme" banner. Tech blogs ate it up. How one woman outcoded a tech giant's arrogance. I read it all from a balcony overlooking Elliott Bay, sipping iced coffee, the salt air mixing with the lavender scent of my robe. The hurt I'd carried, years of being called support staff, of missing my mom's birthday for deadlines, didn't vanish, but it softened. I'd forced them to see me, not as a cog, but as the engine. Evelyn forwarded the payment receipt, $150,000, wired, confirmed. I wasn't just winning, I was rewriting the rules. The sun was dipping over Puget Sound, painting the Seattle skyline gold, when I finally opened my laptop. I was on my balcony, wrapped in a linen robe, a half-read thriller novel beside me. Nexlify had paid $150,000, wired to my account, along with a public apology that was still lighting up Twitter. But they were still waiting, sweating, for the payroll demon's key. I wasn't cruel. I'd built that system with love, late nights, and a need to prove I could outcode anyone. Now, it was time to close the loop, not for them, but for me. I opened a terminal app on my phone, typed 5 lines of code, and sent the key, a 128-character string in a text file titled, "You're welcome." No fanfare, no gloating, just precision. At exactly midnight, the demon hummed to life. Paychecks for 5,000 employees scattered across the country, landing in bank accounts like clockwork. The crisis was over, averted by seconds, and Nexlify fell silent. In HR, a junior associate cried with relief. In accounting, someone ordered pizza. Sam, locked in the server room, whispered, "Thank you," like a prayer. I didn't need their gratitude. I needed them to know they'd underestimated me, and I'd made them pay for it. Literally, the fallout was glorious. By morning, Rick's apology was everywhere. TechCrunch, GeekWire, a Wired op-ed titled "Fired, Then Required. One Woman's Revenge on Corporate Hubris." The hashtag NexlifyNoPay morphed into hashtag EsmeWins, with memes of me as a coding superhero. Rick vanished, his resignation announced in a curt memo, effective immediately. His legacy? Firing the woman who saved the company. I'd spent years in Tacoma, learning to stay quiet, to let my work speak. But this time, the world heard me. My phone buzzed with a job offer from Cascade Tech, lead systems architect, $450,000 package. I locked the screen without replying. They could wait. I'd earned the right to choose my future. Looking back, the hurt still lingers. Missed family dinners, managers who dismissed me, the cardboard box that smelled like defeat. But that pain forged me. I'd built a system so perfect it brought Nexlify to its knees, not out of malice, but because I was too good at my job. I'd forced them to kneel, to admit they'd been wrong, And I'd done it without raising my voice. As I watched two gulls bicker over a crumb on my balcony railing, I felt something new. Peace. I wasn't just a coder from Tacoma anymore. I was Esme Wright, the woman who rewrote the game. To everyone who's followed this journey, thank you. You've walked with me through betrayal, chaos, and a victory sweeter than a Capitol Hill latte. My story isn't just about code or payback. It's about reclaiming what's yours when the world tries to take it. If this hit you in the heart, smash that subscribe button and join us, where every line of code, every fight, tells a story of grit, heart, and a fresh start. Keep building your own truth, and I'll see you at the top.